tackling tough topics to help you think reasonably about life's most important issues. This is Thinker Sensitive.
This is Chad Graham with Thinker Sensitive on the rise of socialism. I'm here with Ben Crenshaw, my co-host. Ben, thanks for coming. We're doing an episode tonight on free college tuition.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, man. Let's dive right into this and talk about what it means to provide a college education for free. Many socialists right now are starting to pick this idea up and run with it. It's very attractive to a lot of millennials who may just be coming out of those college years saddled with unbelievable amounts of debt and obligations. They're hearing politicians talking about the next generation. What are we going to do about this? We need to provide this service, this commodity for free. What do you think, Ben? Should we start giving people free college education?
No, I do not think we should. I don't think that education is a commodity. I do think it is a privilege, and it's not a right. If we want to think about, a lot of times socialists want to justify something like universal or free tuition education because they couch it in language of rights. It's the easy way out.
Tell me about that. Is a college education or education in general, is that a human right?
No, I do not. I don't think it is. The best way to think about this is the distinction between positive and negative rights. A negative right is a naturally occurring right that places duties of non-interference upon other people. So if I have the right to life, then you shouldn't abridge that life. Yeah, you shouldn't take my life, you shouldn't threaten my life, you shouldn't harm my life, and so forth. A positive right, on the other hand, only comes into existence through contract. So if I contract with you, you're my landlord, and I decide I'm going to pay a rent, you're going to let me stay in your apartment, then that contract gives rise to these rights. I have the obligation to pay you, you have the obligation to provide an apartment for me. Yep. But apart from that contract, there are no natural claims to, hey, look, you're living in a nice house, give it to me.
Right. Or like the right to an attorney arises from law.
Exactly.
From social contract. Yeah.
So with the issue of education or a college degree, the reason it's not a natural right is because education just doesn't grow on trees. It doesn't just exist naturally out there. It's the product of human work, discovery, knowledge, thinking, reflecting, working together with one another. And so, of course, the way you get educated is you apply to a school, you matriculate, you show up for classes, you're taught by a professor. There's somebody there who is providing you this good, this service, their knowledge, they're imparting that to you. They're forcing you to wrestle with these issues. And so if you say that I have a negative right to that, meaning I have a natural right to this, then what you're doing is making a moral claim. Mm-hmm. You're saying, I have a right to what's in your head. The knowledge is that in your head. And if it's a natural right, then I'm under no obligation through a contract to either compensate you for your work in any way or anything like that. I can just make a claim to it, and if you don't provide it to me, you have violated your obligation to provide me that education. Now, we understand that education doesn't work that way. We can't make that kind of claim. And so education falls within the positive rights domain because there's this contract. And, of course, we understand that it's what we have, things like promissory notes that you sign for the government who's going to pay for your education. And you say, okay, you're going to provide me this money so that I can get this knowledge, this education, and I promise to pay you back for it. So that's the idea of like you enter into a contract to get an education. And it's a contract with the teacher, it's a contract with the school, it's often with the government because they provide the funds and so forth. So education is a scarce commodity. I mean, it's not really even a commodity, it's just a scarce resource. And it's a valuable resource. When we think about world history, you can have rich nations that are rich in natural resources, but without the knowledge to how to use those natural resources, they're poor.
It's useless.
Useless, totally useless. So knowledge is a huge issue for the prosperity of a civilization. So education is important, but the idea that I have a natural right to it, that I can claim that you must teach me, or that someone else ought to pay for my education, I think these are spurious ideas.
So even if it's not a right, why shouldn't we expect or desire the government to pump unlimited resources to make sure everybody can go to college? Why not just, rack up subsidy after subsidy trying to get every single person into a college campus having that experience if we can. Why not do that?
Yeah, there's 3 reasons why we shouldn't do that. The first reason is what education is in itself. Education it's not just about, like, oftentimes when we think about education today, it's like, well, let's get you a great degree in science or math or something like that so you can go out and have a lucrative career and make a lot of money, be successful. Success is the idea. No.
But really financial success.
Financial success, yeah. No, education, when we talk about education, we talk about a liberal arts education. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, what's the liberal? The liberal there is liberating, literally liberating. And it's through the study of the arts and the humanities you're going to liberate something. What are you going to liberate? Well, yourself. The education classically understood was about the education of the self, liberating the soul from passions that may dominate it, from vices that may tempt, from all kinds of temptations and issues that come up that threaten the development of the human person to being fully human. And so education was the idea of liberating the individual, giving them the knowledge and then the applied knowledge, which is wisdom, to be able to live life well. Mm-hmm. So if you just have a government having this idea, we're just going to pump a lot of money in, we're going to make sure that everybody can get whatever degree they want so they can be successful financially, that totally distorts and misunderstands, it totally misses what education is all about.
And even if you treat education like a commodity, what does that do to the commodity? You basically destroy it.
Yeah, it cheapens it.
You make it so passé, so common that everybody can get a college degree because it's provided for free, and then it really loses a lot of its meaning.
Absolutely, it loses its value. Now, the second reason why the government shouldn't just pump money into the college industry is because there's other options besides college.
Yes.
And the research has shown that the keys to not being poor, essentially, and if you're not poor and you're able to provide for yourself and your family, that's a good benchmark for success.
Yeah, right.
Especially given world history, where most people have lived at a subsistence level,
right,
and have died young. Is that you need to do basically 3 or 4 things. You need to go to high school and graduate. You need to get married. You need to wait until you're married to have kids, and you need to work. And so, notice full time. Yeah, notice a college degree is not in there.
Right.
So if you have a high school degree and you're responsible and hardworking, and you want to go to a vocational school, you want to get hired and get some experience, you want to do all kinds of a trade school or something like that, there are other avenues besides a college degree by which you can be very successful. You can even financially, in terms of work that is meaningful to you, that it contributes to human flourishing and what people actually need, and so forth. So there are other avenues besides college, and so there has been this movement that college is kind of the sine qua non of American existence. If you can get your college degree, then you've got it made.
Right.
And I think that's really been overplayed.
And it's a lie.
Oh,
because
yeah.
a lot of students are finding out that they applied for those loans and they got their Pell Grants and they walked away with $100,000 of debt or $50,000 or even $20,000 worth of debt. And there's no substitute for experience and hard work and discipline and developing ethics and all of those things that are part of a full-bodied education. The piece of paper you get when you graduate doesn't guarantee those things.
Right. And the issue there is that if education is a right, and if the government is subsidizing it for you, then you won't ever see it as a privilege. You'll function with it as an entitlement. Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand it as a privilege, you won't value it as much. And so you will have a tendency to say, party at college, or kind of do B or C work on your papers when you could do excellent job. Mm-hmm. So the more if you do pay for something, if you do have to work for it, you're more likely to value it.
And
incentivize it. And this is why, you have the baby boomer generation, because sometimes they were the first people in their family and generations to go to college. And so this college was this incredible opportunity, this privilege. It was put upon this pedestal. And then they said, I want to provide this opportunity for my children. Mm-hmm. But that eventually kind of depreciates over time. So we've lost that perspective of a college education being this incredible privilege and this opportunity that throughout most of human history, people haven't even come close. I mean, not even Caesar Augustus went to college.
But now we call it a right.
Right. Now, the third reason why government shouldn't pump these subsidies in is because of the cost. And of course, we've mentioned the price problem, the cost of college, and how ridiculous it is. It's not just not kept pace with inflation; it's gone far and away beyond inflation.
Yes.
So there's kind of two reasons that the prices have gone up in college. The first is that because of the changes in American industry from an industrial society and economy to a service society and economy, from blue collar to white collar jobs, a college education has in fact become more valuable.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is a human resource, capital. It is power. And so a college degree does correlate with better jobs and higher earnings and so forth and so on. And you can do all kinds of things with a college degree you couldn't with a high school degree. Doesn't mean, like I said, you can't find fulfillment with a high school degree and then a vocational degree or something like that. The second reason is essentially due to government subsidies. We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
So because, I think it kind of went this way, because education or a college degree was seen as being valuable in and of itself and kind of a necessity for a service economy, the government said, all right, it's a good thing. Let's provide more of it for people because this is a good thing. So the intention there is fine. The intention is noble. The problem is that when they provide subsidies through things like loans, grants, and tax credits, within economics, what it does is that it basically makes, these subsidies make college more affordable and possible for people who otherwise wouldn't partake in it.
Yeah.
So that drives up demand. And demand...
Everybody wants to go.
Everybody wants to go.
Yeah.
And demand then ends up driving up prices. And why is that? Well, it's because colleges are finite. They can only accept so many students. A college can't just all of a sudden like double its student population in 1 year. It can only accept so many students. And so when it has this massive influx of money, it ends up spending all that money on other things.
Yes.
So this is why you have huge sports programs that are probably more expensive than the school itself.
Unrelated to the educational process,
yeah,
really.
Exactly. And you have these gymnasiums and buildings and student centers, and and campuses are the luxuries at this point. And so you have kind of these out of control administration costs. And so these two things in dynamic really drive up costs and prices dramatically. And of course, the best thing to do here is to end government subsidies.
Yep.
And no one likes to talk about that.
Yeah.
But ending government subsidies would cut out a lot of this bloat, a lot of this waste. It would cut down on the prices. It would make, again, education a scarce resource that was valued.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who might go to college with a government subsidy would think twice about it and say, actually, I have something else I can do instead. And they'll be fine. They'll be well off with that as well. So I think that's probably the best solution. Is obviously not a popular one. And socialists don't take it, of course.
No. And again, if you see it as a fundamental right, you're going to push for it to be part of your economic and political ordering.
Right.
But if you're a democratic socialist and you don't think it's a right, it's still not a great idea to bloat that industry with a bunch of money because, again, when you pour a bunch of money, government subsidy, into a free market system where there's no incentive for the college to curtail those costs, it has every incentive to just expand the program and increase the benefit to the student. They're going to do that, and rightfully so. And so, Ben, thanks for clarifying some of these things. One last thought on free college tuition. Do you think that non-socialists or free market capitalists can do anything or have any solutions to help people who really see college as a means to lift themselves out of poverty? Do you think that there's something that free market capitalists can do to help those sorts of individuals rise out of their socioeconomic status to join kind of a task force or a workforce that is educated and is able to contribute to a knowledge-based economy in a more tangible way.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Someone like a Bill Gates will start a Bill Gates Foundation, and they'll both provide opportunities for education if you don't go to college, or they'll help pay for part of your college tuition. And there's other things too in terms of
Endowments. And,
yeah, absolutely. Like endowments, or where the college itself provides tuition funding, or you can have parents that take proactive steps in terms of saving for their child's education. Now it becomes more difficult when they have to try to save $100,000. That's not very doable. But if the cost of education came down, then you could have parents be proactive in saving for their children's education and so forth. So there's a lot of other avenues, a lot of ways to be innovative about this that we haven't really explored and we haven't emphasized and really taken advantage of, because there's kind of this one-size-fits-all mindset.
This is Ben Crenshaw and Chad Graham on free college tuition. Check out our other policy episodes on universal basic income, universal health care, and we have a couple of explainer episodes on Scandinavian socialism and Christianity and socialism. Ben, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks, Chad.
For more Thinker-Sensitive content, visit thinkersensitive.com. Be sure to find us on iTunes and YouTube as well.